We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff tonight because there's just some ridiculous shit going on. It's just absurd, some of the things that we have to deal with day to day and watch in the news. I mean, one of the things, there were a lot of hearings going on today in front of Congress, and there were people from the Republican side of things, from the Trump administration, that were being questioned. Now, the one I found very interesting is RFK Jr. Now, understand RFK Jr. is the Director of Health and Human Services. He oversees CDC and stuff like that. Now, some of the Democrats were talking to him about his opinions as to vaccinations. Now, we know this fucking clown, RFK Jr., is a big anti-vaxxer. He says he's not, but that's absolute bullshit. And a representative was asking him today, would you have your kids get their measles shots? And at first he started to say yes, and then he felt like, well, that would contradict what he's been saying all along because we've got this measles outbreak in Texas and now all over the country. 3 kids have died, and RFK Jr. suggests we don't need to do anything. Anyway, RFK Jr. said this, well, I don't feel good about giving advice. I don't think people should take advice. So I don't feel like I'm going to give advice. Then he was asked about the polio vaccine. Should be an easy motherfucking question, but not for RFK Jr. He answered the same way. He said that, well, I don't like to give advice. Let me explain something to you, RFK Jr. I know he's not listening, but if he were, I would say this. You're head of the Department of Health and Human Services. You oversee the CDC. That's your fucking job, to advise the government, to advise the country as to what to do in situations much like this measles outbreak or whatever. The idea that you can't give us any indication as to what to do tells us one very clear thing. And that clear thing is you don't know what you're doing. And this is what I've said all along. This is what I've talked about more than anything. We've got people that are cruel. We've got people that are trying to overturn democracy. But I really think that the incompetency that we're seeing in this country and in our government run by the Republicans may be the most dangerous things. I mean, something like an epidemic happens or an event, some kind of weather catastrophe. We need people who know what to do, know what to say, know what to or how to react. And we don't have those people. Those people don't exist because Donald Trump keeps appointing clowns to various positions. We've got Pete Hegseth running our Department of Defense. This guy doesn't know what he's doing, literally doesn't know what he's doing. And this isn't just a Democrat not liking a Republican director. He's proved he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't understand national security. That's why he's doing meetings and giving out information on the Signal app, an unsecured app. We've got Duffy, who is in charge of transportation, whose biggest claim to fame was that he was on MTV's Road Rules when he was young. That's his claim to fame, and that's his only connection to transportation. We've got all these things going on around the country, but particularly in New Jersey. We've got some problems in New Jersey now, and we're getting outages with communications. This is putting people flying into and out of New Jersey in dire straits, very dangerous situations. And it's one thing if the guy was just an asshole and just a Republican, but he doesn't know what he's doing. And unfortunately, what's going to happen is we are going to get people dying in these situations. And then, of course, they'll try to blame it on fucking Joe Biden or the Democrats or somebody. I don't know. But RFK Jr. had a hell of a time answering questions. He wanted so bad to be the director of Health and Human Services because he knew something, but he doesn't know anything. Somebody brought up somebody else he appointed, and I can't remember the name. I'm sorry about that. But this guy is working with the CDC, I believe. And this rep, I think it was Goldman, said this guy doesn't even have a medical license. And not only doesn't he have a medical license, he was convicted of practicing without a medical license. He was fined $10,000. And RFK Jr. tried to talk over, as Republicans do, uh, and said, "Well, that's not true." Well, the fact of the matter is very true. And we've got hopefully no serious situations coming our way uh, with regards to health or viruses or epidemics, because we've got nobody to protect us from this shit. You'll remember COVID. Donald Trump was part and parcel the reason why COVID got as bad as it did, why more than 1 million people died, why companies were shut down. We were locked down in our homes. It's funny, the Republicans talk about how bad they hate it and called the Democratic governors tyrants for keeping everybody shut down. But had they not done that, there would have been more people that died. But what they fail to understand is the reason it got that bad was because Donald Trump, when he found out about the pandemic, he did nothing. He assumed that it would be bad for his upcoming election. So he thought, well, better to just ignore it. And when he ignored it, we saw what happens. And the reason I bring that up is because what if that happens again? We are in a worse situation than we were in 2019 and 2020 when we had the um, pandemic. Something bad happens now. We have literally clowns running the show. Literally clowns who have no clue what to do. They're cosplaying directors of various departments. But when it comes down to it, they don't know. I mean, we had Kash Patel sitting in front of Congress. And Kash Patel, as the director of the FBI, has a few duties that he's required to accomplish. One of those duties was at some time before that hearing, he was supposed to supply a budget for his department, the FBI. By the time he sat down, he was asked, "Where the fuck's your budget?" And he says, well, we're working on it. Yeah, but the deadline was 2 weeks ago. Where is the fucking budget? And he had no answer for it. No answer at all. He had no clue when it was coming or why it was coming and what it would be. And the representative said, look, how the fuck are we supposed to get a budget put together for this country and for you if you can't tell us what the hell you need? They did put out a paragraph that suggested they wanted to do X amount of cuts, but they didn't specify what those cuts were, and they didn't say how much they needed. It's the whole thing is very silly. It's absolutely absurd. It's almost surreal when you watch what's going on with these people. And for the life of me, I don't know why Republicans are still saying, well, they're doing a good job. We stand with Donald Trump. There's got to be a point in time when the Republicans say enough. Donald Trump and all his little minions are too much of a liability. If they did it today, they'd be too late because I think they've ruined it for the Republican Party for the upcoming 2026 election, the midterms. They've done a lot of damage to a lot of people, a lot of good people, a lot of Trump-la-fuck people. You know, the farmers, for example. Donald Trump has destroyed a lot of farms and families that own farms, and there's really no way to get back. I don't know if you remember in the first term, Donald Trump's first term, he had the tariffs then with China. And then things went to shit for the farmers because China refused to buy soybeans from America. And let's be honest, we don't sell a ton of soybeans in America, so we needed China to buy the soybeans. If you're a soybean farmer, you need somebody to buy the motherfucking soybeans. Well, they quit buying them. And many of the farmers went bust. And what does Donald Trump do? He bails them out to the tune of 50, 60 billion dollars. Funny thing is in spite of that, in spite of what they went through, those farmers still voted for Donald Trump. They still fucking did it. I can't believe it. Anyway, I'm sure that a lot of them are looking to get bailed out against this time. And whether they will or not, I'm not sure. There's probably less motivation for Donald Trump to bail them out than there once was. Donald Trump's a transactional guy. He's going to want something in return. And frankly, the farmers have nothing to provide Donald Trump, nothing to give in return to Donald Trump. So I suspect there will be some kind of bailout. But I want to say this to the farmers. If you're looking for a bailout, and if you support Donald Trump, understand something. You voted for Donald Trump expecting he was going to do a good job for you, and he fucked up. He fucked up big, like he did the first time. If you get a bailout, that is little more than socialism or welfare. Are you good with that? Are you good with stepping headlong into socialism and welfare? Because that's what it is. Had Donald Trump done nothing, you would have been flourishing now based on what Joe Biden had set up for you. The economy was good. There were no tariffs. China was buying soybeans, among other things. But I want to tell you something about that soybean situation. Farmers were still suffering with that from that first term. Donald Trump puts the tariffs in place. China stops buying soybeans. Farmers go bust. Okay, we get through that. The tariffs are off and China starts buying again. But here's the thing. China's only buying half as much of the soybeans that they did initially. So the farmers are dealing with prices that are low and they're dealing with a lot of excess crop. That's what they're dealing with. And in spite of all that, they still voted for Donald Trump. For the life of me, I don't understand it. I've often said that I get frustrated when I come to the realization after the first term just how many stupid people are in this country. Absolutely ignorant people. They will vote against their self interest every fucking time just to be on Donald Trump's orange orangutan team. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. I don't understand what it takes for people to understand that they're working against themselves. So, anyway, we've got the tariffs now. Donald Trump told us very clearly, oh, those tariffs are going to be good. They're going to make us trillions of dollars. We're going to bring back manufacturing. We aren't making trillions of dollars. Manufacturing is not coming back, and Donald Trump doesn't know what to do. So, what does he do? He's waiting for China to bend at the knee and do his bidding. But guess what? China doesn't do that. China said, fuck yourself. So Donald Trump has to think quickly, and he starts to pull back on the tariffs, as we knew he would, And the stock market goes up a little bit, but that doesn't change anything. Does that mean China is going to start sending ships again? I don't know. Does that mean China is going to buy things from American producers? I mean, you think about it. He pulled back on the tariffs, but there's still a 30% tariff on it. And with a 30% tariff, that is going to cause some problems. That is going to cause some issues for business. But I want to ask this to the Trumplafucks. You people kept telling us, well, Donald Trump knows what he's doing. These tariffs are going to do great, great things. Just wait. Just you wait. That's always the term they use. Well, if that's true, if that's true, why then is Donald Trump pulling back on them? Why doesn't he ride this rough spot out and just keep the tariffs on so we can collect the trillions of dollars, so that we can bring back manufacturing? Why is he pulling back on it? Donald Trump wants people to believe that in dealing with China in these negotiations, that he cut a great deal. He cut no deal. There is no deal with China because he just put a pause on the tariffs. So in 90 days, we could be right back where we started from. Because I'll be honest with you, China's got the cards. You know how Donald Trump told Zelensky, you have no cards. Well, Donald Trump has no fucking cards at this point, and China has them all. Because China was smart the first time around. They looked for other resources and other places to sell their goods. It'll be tough on them if they're not selling to America, but they can get through it. Guess what? We can't, because that kind of planning wasn't done for us. And we have the control. We can shut all this stuff down and create these problems on our own, or we can just go along doing business as usual, which is what we should have done. But Donald Trump wasn't having any of that. So when Republicans try to tell me that Donald Trump is a master negotiator, question I have is, why then did you pull back the tariffs? You told us they would be great. You told us it would bring back manufacturing. Why pull it back if that was a brilliant idea? Donald Trump really got nothing from China. I mean, keep in mind, China put tariffs on us because we put tariffs on them. See what Donald Trump does? He does this all the time. He creates problems. He fucks up the whole process. He's not a good negotiator. He's not a tough guy. And then when he does that, he pulls back and then claims victory. He claims victory. Yeah. Nice job. You didn't win, Donnie. You're fucking losing. Every time you turn around, you're losing. And the worst part of it is that it's not just Donald Trump losing. It's all of us losing. It's farmers. It's businesses. Because you see, the thing is, even if he pulled everything back and shut everything down and did no more tariffs, you know what the thing is? There's already been a ton of damage. There's already businesses going out of business. There's people losing money. There's people struggling just to survive. So even if he took all the tariffs off and started back again, we'd still have those people struggling. And we will have gone through this whole fucking mess for no good reason. Manufacturing's not coming back. We aren't making trillions of dollars. And Donald Trump made a bad choice. And yet there's still Republicans out there that are trying to suggest to us that Donald Trump is some kind of fucking negotiation genius. He's not. He pulls shit out of his ass. He just says whatever comes to mind. And when it fails, he tries to blame it on somebody else. And who generally is that somebody else? Well, of course, it's Joe Biden, which I find ironic because Joe Biden is a private citizen, has been for the last 4 months. He hasn't had any say or power for 4 months. It's all been Donald Trump. So to suggest that Joe Biden is at fault here, it's fucking laughable. Now, this last week, there was a book that came out about Joe Biden. And it was kind of damning against Joe Biden. It suggested that his cognitive ability was diminishing, that he didn't always know who was who or what was what. And I don't know if that's true. I mean, anybody can write a book. Marjorie Taylor Greene wrote a motherfucking book, so who knows? But the point of it is when you come out with a book about Joe Biden and talk about his cognitive abilities, or his problems that he may or may not have had. My question is, who fucking cares? So what? As I've said, Joe Biden is a private citizen right now. Joe Biden isn't in competition with Donald Trump right now. This is what Republicans do. when they fuck up, they say, yeah, but what about Joe Biden? What about Joe Biden? Joe Biden isn't in the business anymore. We've got Joe sitting on a rocker in Delaware, and Donald Trump is the one that's fucking things up. I will tell you this, what I've learned in my life, my 65 years of life, the best strategy to get by in life is anything that happened in the past, let that shit go because there's nothing you can do to fix it. So why worry about it? Joe Biden was a good president, but if he had some problems, so what? So what? He's gone. If he was still president, then I'd say, okay, let's look into this, but he's not. And if we are going to bring up Donald or Joe Biden's cognitive problems, then why wouldn't we talk about Donald Trump's cognitive problems? I mean, he is the president of the United States. He's the one that's making decisions for this country. Why wouldn't we look at that? But funny, whether it be the Republicans or the media, they can let Donald Trump sit in the Middle East and fall asleep during a meeting or say goofy shit, and nobody says a word about it. It is troubling to watch Donald Trump, the way he talks, the way he interacts, the things he says. He's not all there. He's not a healthy guy, mentally or physically. Yet nobody steps up and says a word about it. Joe Biden, he has one bad debate, they're all over his shit. And then when he's out of office, when he doesn't matter anymore, they have a fucking book put out talking about this shit. Okay, Joe's old. Maybe Joe does have some cognitive disabilities, but who cares? He's not the president right now. He isn't dictating what's going on. And the fact of the matter is when he left office, things were running pretty smoothly. They didn't go to shit till this dipshit Donald Trump got into office and started fucking things up. That's the funny thing about Donald Trump. He could have been kind of a hero. He could have just sat back for the first year or two and just rode on Joe Biden's coattails and let the economy flourish. He could have taken credit for that ultimately after a couple of years. But Donald Trump could not do that because he did not like the idea that Biden's name was on it, that Biden's would get credit for it. Donald Trump's all about credit. He's all about being the biggest, the best, the smartest, the toughest, the strongest. And he's none of those things. He's fucking absolutely none of those things. So we got this book that comes out, and I just laugh about it. People will do anything to make a buck. I'll be honest with you. If what they said in this book is true, why the fuck didn't you say it when Joe Biden was in office? If there was truly a problem with Joe Biden, why didn't you do it when he was in office? That would have been the time to do it when we needed the help and we needed guidance as to dealing with a president who may not be cognitively sound. But they didn't do that. They instead waited till after Joe Biden was out of office so they were safe, and they put it out so they can make a buck. That's the problem. You know, we see all these authors that will come out with these scathing books, these situations that are so crazy and upsetting, but they don't do it till after the fact. They apparently have this information. They have the information, but they sit on it so that at some point later, they can write a book and make money. I don't give those people a lot of credit. I don't appreciate what they're doing. They're putting their pocketbook above the health and welfare of this country and the people in it. So fuck them. Fuck them. Fuck them. Just fuck them. Okay? Now, of course, we've got Congress spinning around, trying to fuck us over. It's a funny thing about Congress. Joe Biden accused the House of Representatives and the Senate of cutting Medicaid, Social Security, and Medicare. They, of course, all denied it. In the campaign, they denied it. When they came into office with Donald Trump and they were putting together the preliminaries regarding the bill for the budget. They said, oh no, we're not cutting Medicare. But if you read the bill, they were cutting departments. And if they cut those departments, it could only be for Medicaid. But they still denied it. And when it came down to the point where they had to do something, they had to say something, then they admit they're cutting Medicaid. But we're only cutting the the waste, the cheaters on Medicaid. At one point, they said that there were 1 million people that were getting Medicaid unnecessarily or fraudulently. 1 million people. Well, that's a lot of people. But then one representative asked today, one of the people that were putting together this budget, if 1 million people are the people that are cheating, and that's waste, why is it in this budget, if you make the cuts you make, why is it 13.5 million people will lose medical care? Nobody can explain that because it's absolutely ridiculous. They're not looking for waste. They're just looking to cut money so they can hand the money to wealthy people. And this is what we've got to be aware of. We've talked about this before. This isn't a Republican Democrat fight. This is a class war. This is the wealthy that control everything, that control our Congress, and they're trying to steal the money from us so they can make more money. Money that they don't even need because they're wealthy beyond their wildest dreams. But apparently, a lot of money's not enough. They need all the fucking money. And this is what I've been saying for some time. They need all the money. And so we've got this budget in the House of Representatives, and things aren't looking too good for it because it's become well known that they're going to be cutting Medicaid. A lot of Republicans are running away from it. Hell, Josh Hawley, that dipshit, coward motherfucker, Republican, is fighting against it. He's saying, listen, I'm not going to vote for something where you cut Medicaid. And he's not the only one. There are other people in the Republican Party that don't want to sign this bill. Not because they care whether or not people lose medical care or they cut into an entitlement like Medicaid. It's because they want to feed the people who feed them, the wealthy people who will then in turn put money back into their pockets and into their PACs and all of that shit. That's why they're doing it. But now it's getting a little sketchy in Congress because people are going to have to put their signature on the line and they're going to have to acknowledge whether they're voting for this bill or not voting for this bill. And that's going to be a problem for them. That's going to be a lot of difficulty for them. And and if they sign this, what's important to understand is that um, if they vote for this, they're going to lose votes when it comes to the election. They're going to lose their jobs. It is absolutely a red line. There's no fucking question about it. So they're in a tough situation. They don't know what to do. Do I vote for it and please Donnie Trump? Or, and do I lose my job and my power? I mean, this is one of the things we found out about um, members of Congress, what the most important thing is. And the most important thing to them is keeping their job, not serving you, not working for this country, but keeping their jobs. Everything they do is about keeping their jobs. Now, Trevor Lee says complete political suicide. It is. It is. And I will say the Democrats are doing a good job of exposing all this and talking about it over and over and over again. This is what the Democrats need to do. This is what the Republicans did for so long. Um, and they won the election. So maybe we take a note from from their notebook and do the same thing. I mean, apparently that's what works with this country and the people in it. Trevor Lee brings something up that's been big in the news as of late. Trevor Lee says, my dad said that Ted Cruz is against the plane bribe. Yeah, anybody with a reasonable mind would be against that. For those of you that don't know, or I'll clarify it, Donald Trump is barnstorming over in the Middle East and basically grifting as much money as he can get. He's not talking about policy. He's not trying to bring peace to the Middle East. He's over there to make a fucking buck. And of course, the royal family from Qatar has offered to give Donald Trump a $400 million plane. A $400 million plane. Because Donald Trump's not happy with Air Force One. He's having a new one built, but it's not happening fast enough. So he's going to get this $400 million plane. But he hadn't really thought about it. He's getting a lot of pushback from Democrats, of course, but a lot of Republicans too, because this is such a blatant bribe. It's fucking ridiculous. It's a blatant bribe. So now Republicans are going out and saying it's not a bribe. It's a gift from the Qatari royal family or government to our Air Force. Oh, really? Is it a present to our Air Force? That's somebody just trying to come up with something to spin it. That's not even a good answer. I have a question. We have the largest Air Force in the world. Why in the world would our Air Force need a used luxury passenger jet? For what possible use would they have? Now, they're trying to say it's not bribery because the Air Force is getting it, but that's just not true. It's not true. The fact of the matter is they said very clearly that we're going to give it to Donald Trump. He can use it for Air Force One. And then when he's out of office, he can send it down to his presidential library and he can use it down there. This is clearly a present to Donald Trump. And that clearly is a violation of the emoluments clause. There's no question about it. It's very clear in the Constitution. And even Republicans know how ridiculous and how bad this looks. It looks bad. But Donald Trump is insisting he should take it because Donald Trump is a grifter. He's over there strictly to make money. That's what he's doing. He's trying to make a buck. He's talking about building hotels and a golf course over in the Middle East, in Qatar, and other places for that matter. The interesting thing about Qatar that a lot of people aren't talking about, the irony of this, when he was first in office, he talked about Qatar and he explained how the royal family of Qatar was one of the biggest funders of terrorist groups in the world. But now they're best buddies and now they're giving him a present. And we're to believe that by them giving this present to Donald Trump, that they don't want anything in return. Fact of the matter is, they'll probably get whatever they want in return because that's how Donald Trump does business. He will give them whatever they want. And this is really changing our relationship with the Middle East. You can bet that the Middle East folks are laughing at us because of how weak Donald Trump is and how weak America appears in this situation. But I want you to take notice of something. When Donald Trump was running for re-election, he was telling people that he is Israel's greatest friend. The Jewish people got more under Donald Trump than anybody else, which wasn't true. Now, we've got the war between Israel and Hamas and the whole Gaza Strip thing. Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump are very close buddies, close friends. And I told you before the election what's going to happen. Joe Biden held Benjamin Netanyahu back. Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't want to end the war because if he does that, he's likely to go to jail, lose his position, and go to jail. He knows this. So the longer the war is going on, the longer he gets to keep his status and his freedom. So Donald Trump and he worked some kind of deal out and tried to force Hamas to give in, much like what he did in Ukraine. And so Donald Trump would go back to Benjamin Netanyahu and say, listen, we got to cut this deal. Let's get this done. And Benjamin Netanyahu did the same thing that Vladimir Putin has been doing, and that was stalling or coming up with new reasons why not to do something. Donald Trump became frustrated. It's interesting because Donald Trump's become frustrated with Benjamin Netanyahu and Vladimir Putin because the same circumstance is happening with the Russia Ukraine war. Now, Donald Trump wants to end these wars, but it's not because he gives a fuck about people who are dying in these wars or what it's doing to the country. He doesn't care about that. Donald Trump wants only one thing, and that one thing is to be the hero, maybe even to the point where he might get the Nobel Peace Prize. He's really hungry for that Nobel Peace Prize. He's not going to get it, but he really wants it. So he's been pushing very hard to end the Russia Ukraine war and the Israeli Hamas war. Now, Donald Trump claimed that Netanyahu and Vladimir Putin were his best buddies. But here's what you have to understand about malignant narcissists they do have friends, but not for very long. From a distance, like in the case with Trumplafucks, Donald Trump looks real good. He's smart, he's shiny to them, and they think he's the greatest thing ever. Then, when these malignant narcissists end up making friends, the friends only last so long because as people get closer to Donald Trump or any malignant narcissist for that matter, they see the cracks, they see the failures, they see the incompetence, they see just how bad a human being this person is. They also see weakness. They understand that he can be manipulated, and that's what they do. Then, when they don't do what Donald Trump wants to do, he does what he does with all friends. He throws them under the bus. He burns those fucking bridges. And that's what he's doing right now with Benjamin Netanyahu. Don't believe me? Think about what he's doing right now. He is the greatest champion of Israel, right? That's what he's told us many times. But here he is. Here he is cutting a deal for a $400 million plane gift with the Qataran royal family. And as I told you before, Donald Trump even acknowledged that the Qataris are the biggest financiers of terrorists. And you know what terrorist group they finance pretty heavily? Hamas. He's buddying up with the people who support Hamas, who are the enemy of Israel, who are the ones that invaded an Israel concert and kidnapped people. He's a supporter of people that support Hamas, who killed thousands of Israeli folks. That's what he's doing. That doesn't seem like something that's very smart for a guy who's supposed to be your best buddy. But it doesn't stop there. No, it doesn't stop there at all. Because he's also going into Syria, who is a mortal enemy of Israel. You remember the bombing going back and forth between Israel and Syria? Donald Trump is going into Syria and lifting all the sanctions. How do you think Israel feels about that? How do you think Benjamin Netanyahu feels about that? He's lifting the sanctions. Now, what he will tell us is that by lifting the sanctions, it's because we got rid of that horrible dictator, Assad, and they're trying to build back better, if you will, and try to make it a better country. Well, that sounds good. That sounds good. But here's the interesting thing the interim president of Syria currently is somebody who has had close ties and was a member of Al Qaeda. In fact, he was so entrenched in Al Qaeda that from 2006 to 2011, he was imprisoned by American forces because of his involvement with Al Qaeda. Well, he got out of jail. How do you think he got out of jail? Do you remember in the first term when Donald Trump was fucking up the Afghanistan war and he got 5,000 Al Qaeda released so that when Joe Biden finally did pull out of Afghanistan, Al Qaeda was in full force and they could come in and take over, which is exactly what they did. Donald Trump wants to blame Joe Biden for that, but the fact of the matter is it was his plan. It was him that got the 5,000 Al Qaeda forces released. And this guy, who's the interim president, is one of those people who were released. So we're now going to lift the sanctions on Syria because it's going to be a better country. But it's being run by a guy who comes out of Al Qaeda. That sounds like just the speed for Donald Trump. And again, because they're the mortal enemy of Israel, they can't be too fucking happy about this. They've got to be pretty upset about this shit. And the reason Donald Trump is throwing him under the bus is because Benjamin Netanyahu won't do what he wants so they can end this war and he can be the hero. Now, all those people on the far left that called Genocide Joe Biden, because he wasn't doing enough in the Israeli-Hamas war, I hope you're happy about that. Because what we have now is Benjamin Netanyahu doing whatever he wants. The Israeli cabinet talking about just taking over Gaza and occupying it. I know they'll say it's temporary. Well, the last time they temporarily occupied the Gaza Strip, they had it for 10 fucking years. And before that, it was 20 years. So if you're assuming Benjamin Netanyahu's going to do the right thing given the circumstances, I beg to differ. And the other interesting thing that Donald Trump did was he got the American release from Hamas without going through Israel, without involving Israel at all. He got them released. This is really an insult to Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israelis. So, can you imagine a guy who feels so strongly about his support for Israel, but he's doing all of these things? What the fuck is he doing? He's basically pitting revenge against Benjamin Netanyahu for not doing what he asked. So, what does Israel do? I don't know what's going to happen with Israel in this whole situation. Prior to the election, we Democrats tried to tell Republicans do not elect Donald Trump because it's going to be worse. And of course, it is worse. A lot more people have died. There are people suffering. We had humanitarian aid going into Gaza because of Joe Biden, but now there is none. Israel is talking about taking over all of Gaza. Donald Trump would like to make it a Gulf resort. That's not going to happen. Israel would never allow that, neither would any other Muslim country in the area. This is sacred land to these people. They're not going to let Donald Trump come in and pervert it. And this may be why Donald Trump is upset and why Donald Trump is pushing back and burning his bridges. Because that's exactly what he's doing here. The only thing I would say is I hope to God that he hasn't pissed off Israel so much that Mossad gets a call, because those folks are pretty vengeful themselves and they are pretty vicious. And God help him if that's what they've got planned at this point. So Donald Trump is supporting Syria. He's supporting the Qatari government. He's even working with Iran, which I find really weird too, because we know earlier in the year we were hearing tell that Iran was looking to assassinate Donald Trump. And Donald Trump even said, well, if that happens, I want to make sure that the America goes in and decimates Iran. Not like he could do anything. He'd be fucking God. But now he's buddying up with all these people in the Middle East. Donald Trump took the sanctions off of Syria. What did he get in return? I don't know specifically what he got, but I guarantee you, motherfucker got paid. He got paid. Donald Trump doesn't do anything unless he gets paid. So we've got Donald Trump in the Middle East. He spent a fair amount of time in Saudi Arabia. And this one is the one that bugs me the most. And this is most presidents. They've always bowed and scraped to the Saudi Arabians. In fact, Donald Trump today or yesterday bowed to the crown prince of Saudi Arabia. This is especially troubling because that crown prince is obviously a murderous dictator. He's a butcher. You remember when the American journalist was kidnapped by the crown prince's people. He was murdered and he was disassembled. That's basically what happened. It was a horrific murder. And when it came out that it was done and it was clear that the crown prince was involved, Donald Trump did what he does with Vladimir Putin. He said he didn't do it, so I guess he didn't do it. But here's the thing that troubles me about Saudi Arabia. And I think I may have mentioned this before on the podcast, but it's worth mentioning again. If you go back to the tragedy of 9/11, we had a number of terrorists flying planes into buildings, into a field in Pennsylvania. You remember that? Yeah. The vast majority of the people that were flying those planes, the pilots, the terrorists, were Saudi Arabian. Osama bin Laden was born and raised in Saudi Arabia. But somehow, they're our buddies, they're our friends. Is it because they do good things for this country? No, they don't. They do it because they pay people off, like Donald Trump. Donald Trump is getting paid off. You remember the Live Golf Association and how they tied in with the PGA. It hasn't worked out very well, but I guarantee you, Donnie Trump got a fucking cut. That's what happens. So Donald Trump is over in the Middle East. He's doing nothing for the country, and what he is doing is lining his pockets. And Donald Trump did that the first term, but he was a little more cautious about it. Now he's just being blatant about his grift. And what are the Republicans doing? They're doing nothing. There was a guy, a Democratic representative, don't remember his name, came up and introduced some articles of impeachment for Donald Trump. And you didn't hear about it much in the media. And somebody came to my comments and said, what's going on? Why isn't anybody talking about these articles of impeachment? And I had to explain to him, because it's a joke. There is going to be no impeachment hearings. A Democrat introduced these articles of impeachment. But here's the problem. Democrats don't hold the majority in the House. Democrats don't have a Speaker of the House. We have Mike Johnson. And when that gets to Mike Johnson, he's not going to do anything with it. It's going to sit on his desk and it will never see the light of day. That's just the fucking way it is. That's why nobody is talking about it. I won't say that Donald Trump can't or won't get impeached, but in order for that to happen, it's going to have to be the Republicans that do it. The Democrats will help out, certainly, but the Democrats at this moment in time don't have the ability to do it because they don't have the power. Now, somebody in the comments said, yeah, we've got to wait till the midterm elections, but that's so far away. The answer to that is yes and no. Yes and no. See, the thing is, when we get to the midterms, the way it's going now for Republicans, they are going to get wiped out in the House and they will probably lose the Senate, in my estimation. If they don't, I don't know what the fuck to tell you. But we may not have to wait till the midterms to get done with Donald Trump. As Donald Trump continues to fuck up, as Donald Trump continues to make mistakes, as he continues to hurt the people of this country and the country itself, there is going to come a point with the Republican Party that they will see Donald Trump as a liability, no longer an asset. They're going to be looking at the midterms, and they're going to have to do it prior to the midterms if they see that they're going to get their ass kicked. I see it now. I would hope they see it now. So they better get to getting and get something done. But when they get to the point where Donald Trump is that big a liability, they're going to have to do something to save themselves, or at least try to save themselves when it comes to the midterm elections. And in that case, the Republicans could set up articles of impeachment. And when that happens, that's an entirely different thing. They do have the majority. They will get the help from the Democrats. They will impeach him very quickly. They will convict him in the Senate. Motherfucker will be gone. There will come a point when the Republicans need to do that. Frankly, that time came 2 years ago. They should have done that. They should have been done with Donald Trump. But they wanted to stand by him till the very last minute. Well, I'll tell you right now, they can stand by him for the very last minute, but they're already too late. The damage has been done. People have been hurt. The scandals have been reported. Donald Trump's incompetence, everybody's well aware of it. So the damage has already been done. The Republicans have waited too long. But in their minds, somehow they think they still have time. So when they come to the realization that Donald Trump has fucked them, they will kick him to the curb. They have no choice. They will kick him to the curb when that happens. So the articles of impeachment that were put up by the Democratic representative, it's a joke. In fact, some Democrats have even called him out for it because it's poorly timed. It's not going to work. There's no point. This is some guy trying to generate some publicity for himself for his upcoming election. But in the process, he's going to be hurting other Democrats. But that's not surprising. Politicians being selfish, it's all about me. Um, and that's why you're not going to see anything about these articles of impeachment. It's not to say we won't see some. We could, we should. If the Republicans are smart, they will do something with it. But at this point, it's not going to happen. And that's why the media isn't talking about it. The whole thing is a fucking joke, and it's not going to happen. We're getting down toward the end, and I wanted to bring something up. As I said before, Donald Trump has a tendency to hire absolute jokes to run various departments. Pete Hegseth, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi. I'll talk about Pam Bondi in a minute. But you maybe heard the story that he wanted to nominate Jeanine Pirro as the U.S. Attorney in the District of Columbia. It's a big job. It's an important job. Now, Jeanine Pirro, you know from Fox News. She's the one that usually comes onto the show 4 or 5 goblets of wine in. She's a little tipsy. She's a little goofy. She's an absolute Trumplafuck to the nth degree. And now he's going to put her in charge as the U.S. Attorney in D.C. That nomination has been made. I don't know whether she'll be approved or not, but based on some of the dumb fucks they've already approved, I don't know why she wouldn't be. And she will fuck up there, of course, too, like all the rest. This person was an attorney back in the 90s. Since that time, she's been on television, and she's been an absolute joke. And Donald Trump is putting her in a position of power, an important position that will end up being like all the rest. The director of the Department of Defense, the director of the FBI, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General. It's all a joke. These people are incompetent. They're ridiculous. And they will fuck up each and every time. Each and every time. Like Michael Catlett says, another alcoholic. Yeah, she and Pete could have a kegger or something and get drunk together because they both have some issues with drinking. Somebody brought up Pam Bondi. She is the Attorney General. And she is one of the biggest problems we have because there's plenty of crimes being committed. But in order for those crimes to be investigated and for accountability to be meted out, the DOJ would have to do it, meaning Pam Bondi is the leader of the DOJ, the Attorney General. But she just lets things go. She'll go investigate things that make no sense if it's out and going to own the libtards. But when it comes to real criminality, she just lets it go and acts like it doesn't exist. I will tell you this about Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi um, doesn't have the immunity that Donald Trump has. Nobody does. And so when this is all said and done, and somebody of a reasonable mind is running the DOJ, and we have a decent president and members of Congress, people like her are going to be looked at. They're going to be investigated, and they could very easily be indicted and tried for their criminality. I don't know that they realize it. They maybe think Donald Trump will live forever and protect them, but that's not going to be the case. Donald Trump, in my mind, doesn't make it to 2028 for one reason or another, whether he's thrown out or he just doesn't survive, but he's not going to fucking make it. And when that happens and when that protection is gone, there's going to be a lot of scurrying motherfuckers doing crazy shit trying to save their asses. Now, after the Watergate thing in the 70s, a lot of people don't remember. There were a number of people that went to jail, including the Attorney General. The Attorney General then was a guy by the name of Mitchell, and he did go to jail. I think his wife even fucking testified against him. So don't be too worried about Pam Bondi. She will get hers ultimately when Donald Trump is no more. We are in a mess right now. We are in a mess, and a lot of people want to act crazy, the sky's falling, and be overwhelmed. But I will tell you this, as I was saying earlier, anything that's happened in the past, forget it. Don't worry about the future. Worry about today. Worry about this moment in time. Do the best you can do with what's in front of you and in your immediate time frame. If you do all the best things now, you don't have to worry about the future. The future will work out. Things will straighten out. That's always been the case in this country. We've gone through difficult times and we've always come out the other side. So forget about the past, focus on now, and the future will work out. I can't tell you how long it's going to be, but I can tell you it will happen that way. If you're worried about Pam Bondi, if you're worried about impeaching Donald Trump, all those things will come in good time. Certainly not as fast as we'd like, but they will come. They have to come. This is how this story ends. A malignant narcissist always crashes horribly and brings down a lot of people with them. And frankly, I'm looking forward to that moment in time. All right, I'm going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank all of you for joining me, taking the time to ask questions, taking the time to listen. I appreciate it very much. I will say this, if you didn't get the whole live and want to, this will be the Rational Boomer podcast tomorrow to go up sometime in the next hour, and you'll be able to hear it in its entirety. You can get the video version on YouTube. You can get the audio version on Spotify. You can also get the video version on Spotify as well. So thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.